clarifying that there is a copy of the budget.
Okay, all right. Call the meeting to order. Start with roll call.
Commissioner Allen?
Present.
Commissioner Norwood?
Here.
Commissioner Siragusa?
Here.
Commissioner Roberts? Here. Commissioner Stallings will be in later this evening. Commissioner Orr?
Here.
Mayor Pinkinen?
Here. All right, thank you. Item 2, at the Commissioner's request, discuss any item of concern on the regular session agenda. Okay.
Never mind. They're not.
Okay. All right. Seeing none, we'll go to item 3, study items 3.1. Discuss the announced county sales tax election for Garfield County Detention Center. Mr. Crooks, are you up?
Thank you, Mayor. I approached this a little bit differently than normal. I'm not going to go through a presentation and bore you with PowerPoint so much as I am going to use it as a backdrop if we have questions and discussion and so forth. But I did prepare just a short bit of comments in general to describe what's going on and try to inform folks of the needs and the reasoning behind the sales tax proposal that the county is putting forth in August. So good afternoon, and thank you for having me and allowing me to discuss this today. I'd like to say a few words first, then I'll answer your questions and discuss and comment on anything that you'd like beyond that. I have a significant number of tables, charts, data. I'm a data person, research person, so I have plenty of that I can pull up if we need to. So just real quick, a little bit of background. I arrived in Enid in April 2020. I was hired as detention administrator for Garfield County. As I became interested in taking this position, I researched extensively the detention facility itself, the history of it, the county, and particularly the city of Enid, which houses or has the most population for the county, of course, because I wanted to know what I was getting myself into. I'm not the type of person that jumps into things without first understanding what it is that I'm going to be challenged with. So when I began the job, I knew what to expect, and I got exactly what I expected, a challenge. The detention facility was and remains over 140% rated operational capacity and has been as high as 153% at times in recent months. Was grossly understaffed, poorly maintained, and in disrepair, dirty, and provided a dim place to exist both as an employee or an inmate. Staff lacked motivation and, most importantly, pride due to the years of being told they were second rate and, in my opinion, treated as such, and no one really demonstrated any ownership of the operations or the physical plant. No sustainable operation guidelines were in place, and no standards for operations or for the facility were met. The average length of stay was at 26 days, with the national standard being no more than 15 days. This is not to cast doubt or second guess those who came before me. This was simply the situation as I saw it for whatever reasons. These things are the basis for proper detention operations. Add to it, even during the time of the COVID pandemic, with law enforcement and courts drawing back on arrests, the facility was overcrowded and had been ever since 2010. Each shift consisted of 3 to 4 staff members at best on duty. This is a ratio of 70 inmates per single staff member on duty. This is not only difficult, it's dangerous. The employees of the jail alone had compiled over $250,000 in compensatory time, or over 14,705 hours when I arrived. This means significant burnout, discontent, and most dangerously, complacency. Add this to inmates housed beyond the jail's capacity with less than 4 hours a day out of an 8x10 cell, a lack of professionalism from staff and virtually no proper training, and a budget that was reactive to only the basic requirements at best. And this equates to disaster, which was realized through litigation costing someone their life and taxpayers millions of dollars. That's the reality. The detention facility has since made significant changes and improvements that many are completely unaware of. Based on what we have now as a facility, and even with the significant overcrowding situation, and still the drastic lack of spaces to provide proper services, I personally take pride in our detention facility and staff in comparison to any other facilities in this state. However, I don't accept meeting minimal standards. And no, we are not perfect. We never will be. But if I'm running a facility, our goal will always to strive for perfection. We face challenges daily. These challenges include, but are not limited to, the ability to separate offenders properly, the inability to be proactive in changing the thought processes of individuals, or provide the basic programmatic service such as mental health and counseling and treatment, addictive disorder programs, basic education programs, basic life skills programs, and most importantly, responsibility and accountability for oneself that proper classification and separation would provide. Recidivism in this county is through the roof. The revolving door that is largely the population of the Garfield County Detention Facility will only be exacerbated by continuing to ignore the needs of not just today, but those needs that have been present for over 10 years now, with minimal resolution. In January of 2021, the Criminal Justice Authority was fully enacted to staff, manage and operate, and maintain the Garfield County Detention Facility under its own administration and budget. Like most jails in our country, we had previously depended on the sheriff's budget and discretion as to the necessary expenditures and operational approaches to detention services. In my opinion, as well as the Commissioners and Criminal Justice Authority Board of Trustees by virtue of the actions that they've taken, this is rarely correct management model for a detention facility. The process was completed to separate the sheriff's operation, and since then, we have established a solid foundation focused on detention services solely. It was at this point that I developed what I deemed the Garfield Plan for addressing the immediate and future needs of our detention operations. I'm not proposing the Garfield Plan because I think it would be nice to have a larger jail. In fact, my goal developing the Garfield Plan was to be fiscally responsible and determine the minimal required to address the past, current, and future needs through the year 2040. My 30-plus year career in corrections field and unique planning and operations experience has given me the ability to think much differently than most in my profession. The determination of bed space needs should never be based on a guess or desire to have a larger budget. It must be based on data that supports the growth projection models. It must be based on the legal and judicial trends of the community, the county, the state, and the country. And it must be based on a desire to reduce crime and minimize the need for detention services. The question should always be asked, how small of a facility can we build to address the needs and attain the standards, rather than how big can we get? The Garfield Plan was approached from an operational and analytical perspective versus from an architect or a contractor's perspective. An architect and a contractor's fees are based on total square footage of a construction project. The total square footage, and thus the cost estimate of this proposed expansion, was merely a result of defining the need first and the operational intent, and then applying the space to it. From this space need, or approximately 17,000 square foot total, a current total project cost of $8.5 to $10 million is estimated in 2023 dollars and allows for estimated escalation of costs through 2024. The expansion includes 82 beds or 3 minimum custody housing units of 24 beds each, a complete and proper medical area with negative pressure cells for communicable diseases that we do not have currently available, a new central control room that is properly secured and placed within the facility, a work release housing unit of 10 beds for proper work release services, appropriate spaces for programs to be conducted, and professional services such as legal and law enforcement inmate interviews, DHS services, and other court-ordered services, video court services, and some administration spaces. Other areas within the facility will be renovated to provide space for intake and release and court services operations, shift command, and storage that is desperately needed within our facility. The Garfield Plan is a culmination of numerous studies conducted that include staffing analysis, population projections, and use of non-mathematical models for projections, a space needs analysis, a caseload and criminal case filing analysis, and ultimately a master plan for detention services. It is a 2-year-long effort to refine and best define the needs of this community. I'm not here to request support so much as I am here to clarify and inform you of the major problem and to offer a solution. Of course, I hope that the support will come with it. The shortcomings or needs will have to be addressed sooner rather than later, regardless of the desire or lack thereof of an increase in taxes. This plan and subsequent 0.3% sales tax increase or 30 cents per $100 spent is a proactive approach from the point at which we find ourselves today, and quite frankly, the least expensive approach in my opinion. There are concurrent actions that should be taken as well to ensure that additional issues do not manifest over time, such as monitoring and minimizing case court processing times, seeking alternatives to incarceration whenever possible and as laws allow, and continue to press the DOC to pull sentenced inmates quicker and aggressively seek solutions to extensive mental health and substance abuse issues within our community. The lack of mental health facilities in the state has forced an ever-growing population of individuals with mental health illness into our jails where we are ill-equipped to manage them appropriately. We simply do the best we can, and we do no more, we do more than most, but not nearly enough. The Garfield Plan is focused not only on providing the badly needed bed space to manage operations properly, safely, and securely, but to also provide the ability to make constructive use of confinement time through behavioral-based programs. Agree or disagree, detainees are in our facility with time on their hands. Why would we not try to use the time to redirect their thought processes of those willing and capable and equip them with some positive direction when they leave? Nearly 98% of those arrested will re-enter society at some point. I would personally rather them re-enter with something positive. This is an expense to the county taxpayers. I make no bones about that. No one likes to spend tax dollars on detention, but it's a reality that will never end. It's one of the three pillars of justice: police, detention, and the courts, which few would oppose as a whole, and one does not function properly without the other two. Proactive policing, such as what we have in Enid, requires an adequate resource for detention. The alternatives to that are reduction of enforcement, reduction of sentencing and accountability, acceptance of higher crime rates, and/or acceptance of drastically increased litigation risk to the taxpayer. 83% of all intakes at the Garfield County Detention Facility are derived from Enid or the immediate surrounding areas of Enid. The detention facility assists in providing a safer environment for the city. All of the cities or towns within Garfield County, of all the cities and towns within Garfield County, the city of Enid would be the one most directly impacted by the alternatives I mentioned. Thank you again for giving me this opportunity, and I'd be happy to answer questions and discuss anything further.
You brought up your DOC population
Yes, sir.
that are waiting for transfer to the prisons.
Yes, sir.
Out of your 140% that you're at now, how many of those are waiting transport to the state?
As of today, we have approximately 40, probably a little bit less, but we have approximately 40 that are awaiting transfer to the state. Some are recently convicted, and it does take time to make that transfer. Others, I will be flat out honest with you, have been there for way too long since sentencing.
Are they in there way too long because they're waiting for a court date, or
No, sir.
because they've been sentenced there?
No, once they're sentenced, the judgment and sentence has to go through the process of the DA's office and so forth and up to the DOC, and then DOC has to call for them. We don't make the determination of when they leave. It's DOC that calls for them, and they specifically give us the list of names of the individuals that they're going to accept.
Okay, but my question was pre-sentence. How many
Pre-sentence.
are in there
Okay.
waiting to get a court date so they can be
Yes.
released or found not guilty or
Yeah.
what? I mean, that's,
Yeah.
where are we with those numbers?
Okay, you probably have about 60% that are there pre-sentence, waiting court dates or going through their court processes.
And what is the average length of stay that 60% is in
It's
there?
26 days.
Do you think that's reasonable?
No, as mentioned, 26 days is high. 15 is the national average. And we've gotten down to that at certain points in time, but overall, the court processing time is 26 days, average length of stay. A lot of people think about that and they say, well, 26 days isn't that long, considering. But you got to remember that some people are in and out in 24 hours. Others are staying for literally years. So when you start averaging those numbers out, it does go down. But 15 days is sort of the national standard per se. It's not a governed standard, but it's just in practice. So I push for that. I monitor that constantly. I don't know that anybody's ever done that before, but I know I get on people's nerves by pressing these type of issues, and I have, and I will continue to do that. But that has an impact on the population. It's sort of like the empty bucket, pouring water in the top, and there's a hole at the bottom that's the course. Well, the pouring of the water is the police that are bringing people in. The bucket is the detention facility, and the hole at the bottom is the relief valve from the courts. And if you're filling it up at a steady pace, and it doesn't have to increase or decrease, but if it's steady pace and the courts is not removing them or getting them through the process quickly, then that bucket's going to overflow eventually, and that's where we're at. And Enid is, the police department, you know, they are proactive. It's probably one of the most proactive police departments that I've dealt with, and I've dealt with all over the country. And so that's not a bad thing. I don't dislike that at all. But my point is there's three parts of a justice system, and we're just one. But we're affected by that, and we're affected by both ends. And literally, we have the least amount of control of those three. So we are where we are.
And you say the national average is like 50 days?
15.
15. Is it because of Oklahoma's court system, or what would you? That's something we can't fix, and that's not what we're here to fix today.
Right.
And I was kind of surprised it was not more than 26 days. I did not know that the national average was 15. We only,
The national standard, I shouldn't say average because I don't know what today's average is over the U.S., but the standards put out by I forget the name of the agency, but the state courts association is 15 days.
The report is, it's shocking. It's not unexpected. And what I appreciate most is that you're straight, you're shooting straight.
Yes.
And it's painful. And we don't have any control over it, but we know that we can help
Yeah.
with the right attitude and being behind your program.
Yes.
So, you know, I thank you today for coming and shooting straight with us.
Absolutely.
I'm
Sometimes I shoot too straight.
I'm kind of curious on a big part of the reason for the overcrowding is the delay in DOC accepting inmates that have been convicted, I believe, is one of the things you said. There's like 40%.
It's one of the factors, absolutely.
But it's a large portion. So I'm wondering, how can we help with that? I mean, if they keep saying, no, we'll keep them another month, we'll try again next month.
So, cost per day.
Yeah,
Most people would not even come close to guessing what the cost per day to house an inmate is. Well, here in our jail, it's $54.61 per day.
right.
Okay, $54.61 to feed them, medical, house them, clothe them, all that stuff.
Okay.
Provide the staff, 100% cost. DOC by state statute pays $27 a day, half of what it actually cost us. Now, you can go to any county and they're going to have a different cost per day based
Right.
upon their facilities and what they're capable or not capable of doing. There was a lawsuit filed some years ago now, 3 years ago maybe, by multiple counties arguing with DOC that the rates need to be adjusted. That has gone through the process. Judgment was rendered, it was appealed, it went through the appeals process, and as of last week, or week before last, the judgment came back on the 4th that again said, nope, DOC needs to pay all fixed costs associated with housing DOC sentenced inmates, which is good news. But there's more court processes and appeals processes that they can go through, so I'm sure they're going to extend it. But from our standpoint, in September of this past year, of 2021, by statute, I have to submit by September 30th a justifiable cost per day per inmate to DOC for them to consider adjusting our rates. I did that, and I provided them more information than they, in their own admission, that they've ever gotten to back up that number. And they started the process of reviewing it. So the process for reviewing it by statute is that they will go through it. If they reject it, then it will go to the state audit. And the auditor would then go through it and make the final determination. So I submitted it timely. They received it timely. My assistant and myself have bugged DOC since then, and we've gotten nothing from them except delay. Here we are. Now, once that process is done, that following July 1st, the next fiscal year, is when that new rate is supposed to go into effect. Well, here we are in May, pushing the end of the fiscal year and the beginning of new, and I've gotten nothing from them. So it's very aggravating to me. I subsequently in January went ahead and submitted to the state auditor's office everything that I submitted to DOC to hopefully get a head start and say, heads up, this is probably coming to you. but it's still not gotten me any solid answer. So I don't know, to be honest with you, what's going to happen at the end of this fiscal year if I've got no answer from DOC, or if they just say, well, it is what it is. I will tell you that I've been billing since last year. I've instructed my staff to bill the $54.61 per day. They pay us $27 a day, but at least I have some basis in history of billing what I can show very confidently of what our cost is.
Okay.
So that's one factor. Now, the question you more directly asked is, why are they not pulling them in quicker? How is it impacting us? I've got on the phone with them. There was an article that came out a year ago, I guess, where I publicly went with it and said, DOC's not doing what they're supposed to do. Lo and behold, they call us and, we're going to take 2025 that particular time. That's the largest they've ever done. And it got on the news in Oklahoma City and other places. And I've kept that pressure as much as I can to stay on them. But ultimately, I have no say. Now, third to that, the legislature is in the middle of, and I think the governor is about to sign, legislation that changes the requirement for DOC that they take sentenced inmates within 5 days. So if that were to happen, that's a huge impact.
Yeah.
Now, do I believe DOC can really do that? No, I don't. They've shut down facilities, they've downsized. 780, 781, I'm sure many of you are familiar with. That one drives me up the wall, and I've met with senators and state legislatures and tried to meet with the governor, and I did meet with the State Department Director of Mental Health to ask the questions of where that money is.
Yep.
Because you voted on it. I wasn't here at the time, but you guys voted on it, and it passed.
Yep.
And 781 provided for that account, per se, for that money savings to go into from DOC when they shut down facilities because they reduced the sentencing guidelines and so forth. And all that money specifically is stated to go to counties to address the mental health issues and addictive disorders. Well, we've seen nothing. My estimation, and others have sort of backed it, but about $50 million should have been collected by now and gone to and dispersed through the counties, not directly to just us, but dispersed through the counties. That would have helped some issues and situations. But everybody just throws up their hands and says, I don't know, I'm not sure where that money is. Oh, that's hard to account for. Well, sure it is, because it's somewhere else in the state coffers, I'm sure. But not trying to create a controversy with that, but it's a question I've had that I've never gotten an answer for.
No,
And
I don't question.
don't seem that I will get the answer to that.
Yeah.
But it is a little bit aggravating, because we are dealing, I mean, I'm sure you folks realize, and especially police, there are some serious mental health issues in this community. And I've got people in my jail that do not belong, quite frankly, in the jail. They belong in some sort of mental health institution. And I don't have the answers to that. I'm not a mental health expert, but I do have personal experience through that and experience professionally as a jail administrator. And it's frustrating to us every day. And the things that we deal with, you can't even imagine, and I wouldn't dare mention here. But these folks, yes, they are committing crimes. I understand that, and I understand not needing to be on the streets because they can be a danger to some. But the jail is not what's going to make them better, and it makes no sense to them. They don't even know where they're at or what they're doing.
So what's the solution? Has the state dropped the ball?
In my opinion, yes. And it's not just this state, it's every state. And it's the process of eliminating mental health institutions has been a long time. You know, it's been many, many years back that started. And they just started shutting them down and changing things. And again, I say things I probably shouldn't say, but you know, all this video, I forget what they call it, but counseling people through video and handing them an iPad and doing things of that sort. Yeah, I'm sure it can help some issues and help some people, but the ones that I'm talking about cannot function in that environment, and they're ultimately ending up in our jails.
So it sounds like the majority of the problems are with the state, not getting people out of here quick enough, causing some overcrowding, not giving us, or not providing a system for mental health or career help. And am I incorrect on that?
It is one of the
Because-
issues.
so-
I won't place it solely on the state, but it is definitely one of the issues.
So if that gets taken care of, will that alleviate some of the problems that we have out here now?
It would eliminate some, yes.
Which would eliminate the need for an expansion
No.
and renovation?
Here's one of the issues with,
Because here's the thing,
well, in an idealistic world and everything's perfect, yes. But when does that happen?
I don't know, but that's not my problem. My problem is,
mine.
well, yeah, it's yours. Our problem is, we've already got, our taxes are sky high here, you know that. And adding
Yeah, I
another
know,
0.3, adding another quarter or 0.3 is gonna take us over 9.5%. And,
It'll take Enid to 9.4, which is still 27th to lowest in the entire state
say that
in terms
again?
of counties.
What is? Garfield County is,
Currently, Enid at 9.1 or Garfield County at 9.35 is the highest from Lahoma,
okay,
is at the bottom third of the state
yeah.
in terms of sales tax.
What
It's
my-
not the highest in the state by any
Yeah,
means.
the problem I have with it is if we go ahead and do this, if this happens, we're taking care of a problem that should be taken care of by the state. And then where does their responsibility go? We're just helping them out. We'll never get that money back again,
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden in the future, for decades to come, it becomes Enid's and Garfield County's problem instead of the state.
Yeah.
Yeah, am I incorrect in thinking that way?
I don't think you're incorrect necessarily, but at the same time, it is your problem. It will be the county problem when litigation comes. We
With-
just finished our third fire marshal inspection since I've been here, and we've done fantastic. And that's a big deal to me. I take a lot of pride in my facility and how it's supposed to function and will function and meet the standards. This time, the first time of the three, the fire marshal took note and actually put in the report that this was the third time that we've received a warning that we're overcrowded. Now, most people say, well, okay, it was the fire marshal, who cares? I take that serious. This county was under federal order to build the facility we're in now. Why? Because of inadequate facilities. That's where that leads to. And the more history we build to show that we did nothing about it leads to bigger potential issues going forward. And again,
But-
county, city, to me, it's all responsibility, but ultimately, I mean, my job day in and day out is to deal with these issues. And I see more issues coming
Well,
if we sit on our hands.
I feel bad for you. I
Yes.
really do,
And I
because I
appreciate it.
understand where it's come from. But the way I understand it, this is a leadership problem at the state Department of Corrections. It's their problem. They need to fix it. And I don't know how we put the pressure on, or how you put the pressure on, or we as citizens, but it doesn't sound like this is the majority of Garfield County and Enid's problem. It sounds like the state is got their hands full of systematic problems that are causing a bog down over here, and now we want to do a renovation and an expansion at the taxpayer's expense, when they should be taking care of the problem.
Yeah, and I'm not going to sit here and argue it back and forth because I think you're right and I'm right. But
Are there,
in 2000,
so on this 0.3%, how long is that slated to be? How many years is that?
let me just explain a little bit about the 0.3. So what it's designed to do, what I looked at was to say, okay, how can we address more than just the immediate issue of physical plan? Physical plan's easy, right? Yeah, it's $9, $10 million, whatever. That's a lot of money. I'm not downplaying that. But if you build it, you've got to operate it. And that operational expense will increase, right? So I looked at it holistically and said, okay, what is it going to take in order to build it, pay for it within 4 to 5 years, and then continue to operate it going forward? And that's where the 0.3 was derived. And initially we said, well, realistically it's perpetual. How do you take that money away from operations, right, once you've invested it there? We've since drawn back on that and set a 20-year sunset of it in order to give the folks, the taxpayers, the opportunity to say, okay, was this being used properly? Is this being placed where it needed to be placed? The 0.3, right now we receive a 0.25 from sales tax directly to the jail operations, about $200,000 a month. It costs me $350,000 a month to run the jail. So it's subsidized by the county general fund every month, $1 million or more per year subsidy. This 3.0 would eliminate that, and it would help you as a city, but It eliminates that, and it puts it all in the total .55, covering full operations going forward beyond the debt service. So that, I try to look at it holistically and say, what's the final result of all of this? And that's where we're at. But the 20-year sunset is where we felt we needed to do and give the taxpayers the opportunity at some point. Now, the 2.5 sunsets in 2033. So at that point, there has to be some review as well. So it's basically a 10-year point at which there can be an adjustment from the two. None of this being information that you want to hear, but again, I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm
Well,
gonna tell you
it doesn't matter whether I want to hear it or not.
Yes.
I just want to make sure the responsibility is upheld by those who are responsible for the problem.
And I agree.
To me-
Now,
right now, that's the state, and I don't know what we get from the state as far as funds or from federal funds or wherever the funds may come from, but it just seems to me there's got to be a better answer than putting on more tax.
But interestingly, early 2000s, the jail was built in 2005, so the planning stage of it was early 2000s. They had called for approximately 150 more beds than what so, I mean, in retrospect, you look back at that and you say, okay, well, maybe they should have done that. Well, that's easy to second guess. But here we are today, right? It would have been good if they'd done it because maybe we wouldn't be in the predicament we're in. What the other, in my opinion, and I've done this throughout the world in terms of planning for corrections, but they built one custody level of bed, and that's high security, high and medium custody. So that means it's 2-person or 1-person cells in hardened steel and concrete, right? That's what all of our housing units are, with the exception of a trustee tank that holds 12. That's great, fine and dandy, and those are the most expensive ones to build. So thankfully, those are done. We don't need those. What we're proposing in the expansion is low custody, normative style housing dormitories where individuals have to be involved in some programmatic measures in order to be housed in those units. So they have a little bit different level of structure and a lot less expensive to build. But there is a responsibility that has to be maintained by the inmates who are housed there and participate. So we're trying, I'm looking at everything possible to say, what is the least expensive? Again, what's the smallest we can do?
Yeah.
And the 82 total beds,
Well, and another angle to look at it from is, how much money are we going to invest in building a bigger jail and renovating? I mean, is that money better spent, put it into mental health services?
Well-
And fixing the problem at the core before we have people end up in the detention center?
okay, but in mental health services as such, what?
I'm just curious, yeah.
Housing?
It's
the same
what?
difference. I mean, we're gonna get into that. And I like to pull in, and I have pulled in any of the independent agencies, private and pseudo-government agencies that handle these type of things and try to work with. We hired a full-time mental health counselor, which I don't believe any other jail in the state has, which has helped tremendously. We put together a program for working with those inmates. We started a GD program already on our own, asking for donations and so forth, and have done that. We've done so many things that we, could think of to do, and will continue to do that. But again, we can second guess what's been done by the state or not been done by the state. The problem still lies with us at the immediate, and the only resolution that I can come up with is we've got to do something, and waiting to see what the state's going to do is not a reasonable answer in my mind.
And I can appreciate your perspective, but again, I go back to, well, if we're going to fix this problem for the state, we're going to own this forever. We're going to own that problem forever.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to fund anything that in Garfield County, they can fund their stuff. We're going to cut their funding in the future or
We
whatever.
don't
the
get any
case.
funding from the state right now.
We don't get any funding from the state?
Not directly, other than DOC payment.
I just don't like
the
solving.
tax dollars.
I just don't like solving other people's problems
Yeah.
for them
I don't,
through tax rolls, you know what I mean?
I don't either, but we're the ones that suffer if tragedy happens, like the death that occurred in the cell.
Yeah.
Well,
Your property taxes are higher today to try and pay off that settlement from Greene County.
Maybe
So
so.
if we don't do anything,
No, it is.
That's gonna happen
It's
again.
not maybe, it is.
Well,
it
I
is.
still
Damned if
like-
you do,
I still
damned if
like
you
the
don't.
extra. I don't still
Yeah.
like the higher tax. I never will.
Yeah.
Well,
Nor do
no,
I.
I got
I don't
the
disagree with
question, and this might include Scott also, because I know Scott does statistics at the police department. We're talking about our facility holding for 26 days as opposed to the national average, which is 15.
Standard.
Standard.
Standard. Okay, with ours being at 26, Scott, how bad has our crime been compared to other cities that house their prisoners that have that turnstile deal and let them out 3 days, 4 days?
Statewide, our violent crimes remain steady. Our thefts, burglaries, stuff like that, property crimes are continuing to grow like everyone else's, but violent crimes are pretty much steady.
And I take it those are the ones that are in there for the longest periods of times that are in your facility?
Yeah, absolutely, the violent criminals. I read something the other day, and maybe you've seen it as well, is that it's not even so much the crime rates are going up, but the severity of crimes has increased. And
Well,
we've seen it, we've experienced it recently here,
Well,
unfortunately.
that's what I'm getting at, is we
And-
have facilities throughout the United States and DA's offices throughout the United States that are turning these violent people out on the street in less than 15 days.
Yeah,
And we locally are holding them for more than 15 days, apparently, because your statistics are saying that our average is 26. It seems that our violent crimes are staying leveled out.
In Enid, we're pretty level.
Okay. That tells me the security of us holding them for longer is making a difference in our entire community. And the safety of myself, my family, my neighbors is a little more important than turnstile justice.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I have a
And
couple of questions for you.
Yep.
Conditions.
Yes,
You
sir.
had mentioned something about the conditions.
yes, sir.
And you had mentioned about those that have mental health issues and mental disabilities. Are you able to separate them from other individuals that might be at risk around those that have mental health issues?
Yeah, very good question. So that's something we work very hard on every day. Separation, classification. We institute a classification system. There's always been one, but we implemented a very rigorous classification system, at least since I've been here. And that's one of the most frustrating things is we have to try to keep those inmates who potentially become victimized in our jail, lower level offenders, nonviolent offenders who end up getting mixed with some violent offenders. And I was explaining it to someone today that walked into the lobby. Some of these inmates, and a lot of our inmates in our jail, live by a different law. Okay? A lot of people don't realize that, but when you get into jail, you get into these gangs, there's certain laws they live by. And our regulations be damned if their superior in their gangs order them to attack someone, to assault someone, they have to do it or they're assaulted or worse. And so every day we deal with this and we struggle with it. And the communications abilities of inmates to communicate within our jail from, the north side and the south side is unbelievable how they're able to do it. And a lot of times we can't figure out how they've done it, but they are nonetheless communicating. So we make every effort to separate and protect those who are vulnerable, especially the mental health cases. And I beat my head against the wall every day thinking, why is this person still here? Why are we still housing this individual? You guys know of, there's one individual, I won't name a name, of course, but been in our jail since I've been here, day one, right? 2 years, in and out. And she's released and back within 24 hours. Stays another 6 months, released, back within 24 hours. Most recently committing, or at least accused of an offense that could have endangered a child. So she's not capable of standing trial. She's not capable of making sound decisions. Yet we continue to repeat the processes of evaluation because that's what's supposed to happen, defined by the courts, I suppose. I've got another individual that's been there over 5 years, has yet to been tried. Tell me that makes sense, okay? And again, maybe I'm saying more than I should, but it's frustrating to me. I do give a damn, okay? Every day I think about these individuals, and we look for, and my assistant administrator is here as well, we talk about these things every day, and we struggle every day to try to protect those who can be vulnerable, and keep those who are aggressive separated from others as well. It's a challenge. I can't do it to the degree it needs to be done right now at 140% capacity. I can't. It's not possible. And that's what I get concerned about, because yes, we can say the state's not doing what they're supposed to do. I don't disagree. I can get frustrated with it, but the bottom line is we, the taxpayer, is going to pay the price if something goes wrong. And I don't want to see that happen. Okay? I have yet been here for 2 years, over 2 years. That chair has not been touched. Okay? We have not put an individual in it, nor have we thought about putting an individual in it. We've handled things differently. We've completely changed the mindset of our staff and the operational concepts of our facility. Okay? Time is on our side, and there is no need to progress to a level of violence or hands-on, so to speak, if we can handle things in a timely manner, and we've done that. So we've got 0 litigation since I've been there, successful litigation against us. There's always complaints, there always will be, but that's something I think about and try to deal with every single day, but it's getting harder and harder and harder to ensure that these things aren't happening, and that's what worries me the most. And I will, as I told my board and the county commissioners, if I'm anything, I will always, you will never be able to tell me that you didn't know. So not one member of my board nor the county commission will ever be able to sit there, look you in the face and say they didn't know something, because I tell them everything. And I think that's my job, to inform them and the taxpayer. And I've said it before over and over again, my jail is open. I will bring you in and give you a tour if you come and ask. I try to provide that opportunity for anybody and everybody. I beg people to come to my board meetings. I typically get none during a board meeting, but it's once a month and it's open to the public. And, you know, come and find out what's going on. Come and find out the reality of it. I'm not afraid to talk about it. I'm not afraid to tell the truth and be straightforward about it. So again, that's why I'm here today, and I'll always be that way. I'm not going to be accused of not informing someone of what's happening.
Mr. Cook, thank you for coming to talk to us and shed the light on what's been happening. In fact, I want to tell you thank you for not putting anybody else in that chair.
Yes, sir.
Because that was my cousin
No, I'm
in
sorry.
that chair. That was my cousin
Yes, sir.
I grew up with in that chair.
Yes, sir.
Second thing, you answered, so clergy can come in and different individuals can come in and take a look and take an observation.
Yes, sir.
That's a good thing. If you have any idea of the percentage of the individuals who are homeless that are in the detention center, because a lot of people do things to go back, to stay warm, to stay cool,
Yeah.
to get a meal.
Yeah.
I talk to people like that.
Sure.
I hang around them. So is there a high percentage of those individuals that are in a position where they just really can't help themselves?
Yeah.
Do you have that?
I believe, I don't have the distinct data or specific data on that. I do know that I've seen an increase. I know it's increased. We've talked about it, where we're seeing the homeless. We'll see them on the streets after they've left our jail. You know, 24 hours later, we'll see them on the streets somewhere. And so we're starting to learn more and more of those. I would say it's at least 5% right now of those have nowhere to go when they do leave. We've had to literally bring people to the Salvation Army because they had nowhere else to go. And we have done that. And I probably shouldn't do that, to be honest, because it puts, you know, some liability on us as to what happens. But I'm not going to send them out the door. Sometimes they're leaving in shorts when it's 20 degrees outside. and we try to get them what we can, and we try to provide them a place somewhere. We do everything we can there. It's more than we're supposed to do or required to do, but we try our darndest. But if they're not charged, if the court says release them, I can't keep them there. Then I get a wrongful incarceration. So, but yes, we've got homeless, and it is increasing in my view in this community.
Ben, can you summarize again? It's a 3/10 tax that's going to be asked for. It's for 20 years. It's to pay for capital and operations.
Yes, sir.
Is that pretty much the essence of?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When's, is it?
August 23rd
Okay.
ballot.
So the county will call for it probably in June or sometime?
Yes, June 6th, I think is the deadline, but it's going through that process now. And it's, again, guys, I'm not, this isn't something I wanted. I live in Enid, all right? I'm going to pay this as well. So it's not something that I'm looking forward to or take pride in having to do, but I'm at wit's end in terms of what can be done. And this is the solution I'm trying to offer. Rather than just complain about it, I'm trying to do something with it.
So any of us commissioners that would like to go and visit the facility, just to check it out, how do we get in contact with you? And
You can call the main number at the jail. You'll speak to my assistant Kathy, and she'll get me to you, or you can get with me. I'll give you my cell number.
yeah, if you would, I'd like to have your cell phone number.
Not a problem. Interestingly enough, again, maybe this is selfish of me, but today we had someone in from out of town, and she had never been to our jail before, a lawyer meeting with a client, which I also push, by the way, as lawyers to get out there and visit their clients, because that's part of the processing times, delays, and that's frustrating. But anyway, she was here in town an hour ago, left, and she complimented me on the professionalism of my staff, the courtesy of my staff, and then asked the assistant director if this was a new facility. And I said, wow, that says something. Because she said it's very clean and it looks nice, because we have painted, we've polished, we've cleaned, we've done a lot of things in the last 2 years. And it does, I feel, like it's come a long way. And there's still a long way to go. But the main areas of our jail look very nice. I believe that's the way it should be, because it's not only about inmates, it's about our staff, the people that work there. There's 61 staff that work there. And these people are in this environment day in and day out for 12-hour shifts. So why should they be subjected to less than reasonable conditions as well, right? I want them to be somewhat happy about working where they're working. And we have enough other difficulties and challenges to deal with. It shouldn't be, the cleanliness of the facility and the upkeep should not suffer. So that is something that I take pride in. So, but yes, I'd love for you to come out and take a look.
And are the individuals, are they allowed to go outside?
Yeah, so there's, each housing unit has an outdoor recreation area. There's problems with the way that was designed, and we're trying to fix those as part of this renovation. But, so when I got there, most inmates were not allowed out of the cell more than 4 hours a day. So and at 8 by 10, that's where they stayed for 20 hours a day. Immediately when I got there, I changed that policy and the procedures for this, and they're able to get out of their cells for 16 hours a day now. Okay, so that means inside the day room, inside the housing units, and that's connected to that outdoor rec, so they get half of their time, that 8 hours approximately, ability to go outside and into the recreation areas and have sunlight and air, and different activities, exercise, and so forth. So yes, that's very important. That changes. A lot of people say, well, we're babying these inmates. When you do this, I can't stand when someone comments like that, because it tells me they know nothing about operating a jail. But a human being, will naturally become more and more agitated, aggravated, and even aggressive when they don't have that ability to not be restricted into that small space. So you have to give those opportunities in order to maintain your operation, the safety, the security of your staff, and the public. Ultimately, those things are important. And it's too easy to say, well, they're criminals. Well, most of the people in our jail have not been convicted. So I want to make sure that they're getting, I don't look at their charges, I don't care about their charges. There's certain high-profile inmates that I understand, I know what they did, right? But the majority of them, I don't go digging up their charges to say, okay, I'm gonna judge you based on what you're charged. I don't care. I'll talk to them, I'll deal with them. I've got 4 right now in our GED program that I don't know what their charges are. One of them I do, and it's serious charges, but he's a young kid. Let's get him some education. Yeah, he's gonna spend time in prison, I would guess, but let's at least start him on the right path or change that process, that thought process. So many of them are just way out of whack in terms of how they should be acting, because they haven't been taught anything different. They've been raised with that in many cases. So somebody's got to change that course and that thought process. So that's what we try to do. And there's others that are lost causes, and we have to deal with them as well. But we're doing what we can.
I have one more question for you.
Yes, sir.
When you find pockets of cliques or gangs or whatever it is, you had mentioned about someone carrying out an offense against someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Are you able to kind of prevent that from happening? Do you have different methods that you use? Do you separate them from?
Yeah. How many gangs do we currently have? Would you say active in the guard? 8? Jail 8? It's probably, 8 significant, and I'm not talking about local little gangs. I'm talking about national and international gangs, cartel. We have those in our jail, right? Multiple. We also have Marshallese, which people in Enid are probably familiar with. Most people anywhere else in the country aren't very familiar with that. And those cultures, I teach a class, in the training. We've enhanced our training significantly. I'm very proud of our training program for new detention officers, but I talk about enculturation and acculturation, how that impacts people, and how it goes towards us recognizing those things, goes towards helping protect and being able to be proactive, right, towards keeping these things from happening, right? Witnessing or observing things that are going on that lead us to the conclusion that, hey, something's about to happen, and we can get in there. So we've been more and more successful. There's 2 main ways of operating or managing a jail, right? Direct supervision or indirect supervision. This is an indirect supervision jail. Direct supervision came about in the early 2000s, in 1990s. It was not incorporated into the construction of this jail. I wish it was. I ran a jail in Kansas back in the early 2000s that was designed and built for direct supervision, which puts our officers in the housing unit with the inmates for that particular purpose. Give the inmates, so if you put inmates into a housing unit without an officer involved, somebody is going to come out as a dominant person in that housing unit, right? By virtue of whatever it is that they do to become dominant. They run that housing unit, not the officer. So the officers come in and out every hour or even less, but the inmates ultimately are the ones that run it. In a direct supervision environment, that officer runs it, and those inmates depend on that officer and are able to talk to that officer and build some sort of rapport so that they do communicate with the officer better and inform them of what's going on, right? They look at us as their protection versus another inmate. That's not what I want. I want them to look at us. So we get into these housing units as often as possible, much more than 1 time per hour, which was what the requirement is. And the point of that is to hopefully identify certain things. Have we stopped them all? No, by no stretch have we stopped them all. But I do believe we've been pretty successful in stopping a lot of issues and separating and recognizing tattoos and things that indicate which gangs they're with. This gentleman behind me, he's young, but I guarantee you he could name 98% of the inmates in our jail by name, just by looking at their face. He knows them well. He knows their affiliations. He's got a great memory for that. That's just a talent, and that is good, and that's what we want from our officers. So we're trying to build that kind of thing and better understanding of the inmates. But unfortunately, he knows most of them because they keep coming back over and over again. We know their history, know their mother, their father, their brothers or sisters. They've all been there. At some point in time, we've had 4 to 5 family members in there at the same time. And so, it's sad, but it's reality.
Well, thank you and your staff for helping keeping Enid safe.
Thank you
Yeah.
for saying that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think it's the biggest deal that, that when you get elected as a sheriff, they don't send you to school to how to run the jail. And so we're very fortunate to have you come in here as a professional and have the kind of attitude that you bring to us.
Yeah.
And that's really important because somebody could be doing a poor job out there and we wouldn't know any better.
Right.
And you've got a tall hill to climb, and we want to support you. You just got to get out there and get everybody on board. And one of the ways is coming here and talking with us. So thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there's probably a couple things that has to be done, and one is what you're trying to do. I think the other is, I think we've learned a little bit more about 780, 71, 81 shortfalls. Maybe we need to ask a few questions up our line and find out if maybe we can help with that side of it.
Absolutely.
So, Scott, I agree with you. I think we need to try and solve that part of the problem too, because just building more buildings doesn't fix that.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think this is the only action, as I stated in here, that needs to be taken. There's other things that need to be looked at beyond my control, but I'll continue to bring them to the attention of courts and whoever I can. I don't mean this in a ugly sense. I don't care if people get upset with me. I'm going to express my thoughts at least and make sure that they're aware of them. And hopefully something will change.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. Thank you.
Well, I applaud you too. I was just going to say, hey, the fundamental problem is funding. And so I applaud you for bringing a plan forward. I know when I was with corrections and finance, it's the same problem. Corrections are good people. They try to do what they can do, but ultimately nobody likes to pay to house inmates. And it doesn't matter if it's the jail or the Department of Corrections or the Federal Bureau of Prisons. And so that's the fundamental problem you're up against, but I applaud you for bringing a solution.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, item 3.2, discuss parks, recreation, 5-year plan.
Yeah, hey, this is, several of you have asked us to bring some information about a parks plan to you. So we're going to talk about that tonight. This is intended to be a dialogue, but Corey's going to take you through some 5 years' worth of projects, some of them which are in next year's budget, which is exciting. And some of them are things that are going to be, I'm going to say, are relatively easy to do because people like Corey and Morali will make them happen. And some of these are hard on this plan. You're going to be able to pick out the really hard ones that are going to take a lot of effort and not just one meeting, but probably months and months and perhaps years of planning. And so we would like to get some feedback from you tonight too. So I'm going to stop talking, and Corey, why don't you start going through the plan and show them some stuff, and let's get their feedback and make sure we at least capture the important stuff on here, and then we've got to probably start putting some dollar figures to this, and then the really tough capital projects we're probably going to have to get busy working on. And I want to say I appreciate the park board's leadership on this too.
Absolutely.
Which Commissioner Allen's a member. And so thank you, Corey.
Yep. Good morning, Mayor, Commissioners. Unfortunately, I am going to bore you with a PowerPoint presentation tonight, so. We'll start with the current year right now. We're looking 5 years out ahead of time here.
You should have this on your iPads too to follow along if you like.
Yeah, and some of these things will go well past 5 years, as you'll see, because it's costly. Everything's going up. The price of materials for everything's going up. So this definitely isn't a plan that I want to absolutely have done in 5 years. This is a goal and a vision of ours and the park boards to try to see. And most of this comes from me and my team on the ground that sees the issues and that need to see the upgrades that we need to start making. So we'll start off on the current year, 21-22 that we're in right now. These are all the capital projects that we had. All but just a couple are done. We did get new scoreboards for Government Springs South football. Those are in, and we'll be installing those probably next month. They usually start August sometime. So we'll have new nice scoreboards that are wireless. They've had issues in the past with some of the underground wires having issues. Let me see here. We'll start with the slide. Okay. Kellett Park. This is the 3 softball field park on South Cleveland. We're looking, I'm wanting to get the metal roofing on all the buildings, the concession buildings and the restroom building there. You can see the main building on the left there is in dire need of a new roof. Through the last 2 or 3 years, we've gone through all the parks and kind of standardized the green metal roofing in all the pavilions and buildings. So that'll keep continuing through this also. And then also, we're going to be putting, I wanted to get new fence put up through the whole complex, but the price of fence is just way beyond what I had budgeted. So we'll be doing the backstop fences. They're all beat up, the big 12, 18-foot backstops. Aside from that, we've got some temporary fence because we've got high school girls tournaments there quite often, and these fields are set up for adult fields. And so we've got temporary fence where you put some sockets in the ground and you can set up a shorter outfield fence. And then we also got new scoreboards for out here. I've been here 9 years and the scoreboards have never worked. So the scoreboards are in-house. They'll be installed this summer, later in the summer. So. And you guys feel free to stop me at any time if you have questions about these. Also, in this current fiscal for capital, we had to put and these are the standard roofing that I'm talking about right here, the green metal. They look nice. They last forever, way longer than composite roofs do. So we did do the 2 pavilions at Phillips Southern Heights this year. Then Meadow Lake Shoreline Stabilization. I know this has been one that's been on the outlook for many years, and it needs to happen. And I believe Raleigh, it's out to bid right now, I think is where that's at for a contractor. But if you look at this picture's about 2 years old. If you see that OG&E power, that park light right there behind that truck, there's about a foot, 2 feet maybe of ground there. When I started, you could get a 6-foot mower in between that and the shoreline. So that shows just in the last 8-9 years how much that North Shore has eroded. So it's a really good thing that that's getting taken care of. And then here, this is just kind of an overhead view of Meadow Lake South. It's showing where, if you look, right there, that's where the current trail stops. This is the bathroom and pavilion number 1 right here. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Jason, but this is going to come down and attach just on the north side of that tree line, go all the way past the horseshoe pits to the west, and then cut that back down south to connect into Richland Avenue. And that, I believe, the contractor's starting any day now. So that's where we're at on this current year projects. Fiscal year 22-23, which is this upcoming budget to be approved, we have Kellett ball field lights. Over the last 2 or 3 years also at Kellett, we've had some pretty serious storms come through, and most of our poles in all of our ball field complexes are the big wooden telephone poles type lights. We've had 2 or 3 of those big lights come down in storms, completely down, and luckily nobody was there at any of those times that they did come down. But so we did come through last year. We took another thing that was kind of unsafe about those. We had the overhead power, which is pretty unsafe too. So we brought all that power underground, got all the power to each field underground safely, and then we got the south field set up with new lights. This current year to be approved, we do have the middle and the south fields to get those out. And after that, all 3 fields will be lit up with new lights.
As an aside, is OG&E working on some of the lights that when we made the agreement with them, have they been doing anything in the parks that you're aware of, changing out some of the lights and whatnot?
Yes, well, last year I know they went through Meadow Lake and put in all LED lights. That's all that I know for sure.
They were supposed to do government springs.
I don't think
They have done an assessment, or at least are working on an assessment. I don't think they've done any work yet, Commissioner. I think that agreement takes effect in January, or maybe it's effective now. I don't know, but we will definitely get back with them because they've been working on the downtown lighting project with Main Street as well. So when we have more to report on that, we'll do that. Maybe bring OG&E in to give you an update.
Sure. The next thing on our budget draft here is shade canopies at, this is to go over the playground equipment at Meadow Lake and Crossland North, just to give them some shade to play on, so they're not out there in the burning sun every time. Trail crossing with flashing lights at West Roop. I've got a lot of requests for that. People that are worried, people that use the trail system all the time. We've got them at Cleveland, we've got them at Oakwood, and we don't have them at Garland because it doesn't cross there. But so this is just a set of flashing lights and a crosswalk there for them to use on West Route. And then to resurface the tennis courts at Lower Government Springs South. There are 8 courts down there. So.
All of those 4 projects are in the proposed budget that you'll have a chance to approve tonight.
Yes. And here's just some pictures. I think it's kind of hard to see, and I apologize for that. But the middle picture is the South Complex with the new light poles and new light system. And if you look at the left picture there is the middle field, and it just shows the bare bones light poles. And we pulled all the lights off of it just to take all the weight off of them. And the same thing with the right picture there. These are the playgrounds. This is Meadow Lake North Playground on the left, and the Champion Splash Pad Canopy on the right, just to give you an idea of what we're looking at doing over that playground.
And you've got the splash pads open now, don't you?
They are open, yes. They are open 7 days a week from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m.
And there's no water shortage. We're doing both of them at the same time. They're not on
Correct.
opposing days.
Correct, both running 7 days a
Love
week.
to hear that.
Yep. This next slide is the picture on the left there is Roop Avenue where the trail crosses there at the bridge, and then something similar to like Cleveland on the right picture there is what we're looking at doing there. And then, of course, the lower South Government Springs tennis courts there would be resurfaced.
So is that paint?
Yes,
Well,
yes.
we just painted those. Of course, when I say something, that means in the last 30 years.
It's been more than 9 years ago, I can tell you that.
But not much more. So there isn't a leveling problem out there?
No, those are nice, nice and level, and they have the correct drainage off of those, so. Year 2, fiscal year 23-24, Crossland Park North Baseball. We're gonna try to come up with a plan to get some additional parking up there. I'm sure all of you are well aware of the parking situation during baseball games. If not, go out there any Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday night, and you'll definitely see it. So we've looked, there's a church up there on the north side off of Purdue. We've looked at trying to figure something out there, whether it be leasing or, we've got a major problem that we all know we have to fix. So Government Springs North, this is the same new metal pavilion roofing on all pavilions. There's 5 pavilions there that would need the roofing, and that's, again, just to standardize what we have. Government Springs South football, update all the sidewalks and ADA bleachers just to kind of bring it up to par, and you'll see in the pictures here, there's a lot of slopes at football, and we just want to kind of fix that all up. Meadow Lake North parking lot overlay. Both Meadow Lake North and South really need an overlay. They're getting pretty busted up. And then Government Springs North, new restroom with ADA access, which has enough troubled areas to try to figure out how to get that done in itself. So this is Crossland North, an overhead view of it there. You'll see the 4 ball fields on the north side. You can see right there, there's minimal parking. So we do have inset on the right side and the left side of the entrances there, and then we've got a small parking lot down below them to the south. But yeah, game days, it's a real situation up there. Here's some photos of the Government Springs, the current roofing on the pavilions there. Here's the football complex. We've added that new concession stand and a little storage shed there, but it's just going to be updating some of those sidewalks and get some metal, or some ADA access and bleachers in there with them. And then here, of course, is the Meadow Lake North parking lot and some of the issues we have with that. Government Springs, if you look at this, that shows that whole area is basically in a floodway, if you're familiar with that. So really the only place we can do anything is up here on the west end, closer to the museum area, elevated above that floodway area. Fiscal year 3 is 24-25. We've got Exchange Park, new light bulbs, and you'll see kind of as we go from here out, I'm adding the ball field every year just to standardize it and get rid of those wooden poles. They scare me a bit, so. Exchange Park, new lights, skate park enhancements, and this is taking some of the old equipment that we had here before the new park was built and resurfacing some of the concrete on the south end of the current skate park and utilizing the old equipment. I know a lot of the skaters that were involved with that are really excited about keeping the old equipment around too, and of course repurposing it. And then adding a pump track. A pump track is a really neat addition. I think it's kind of minimal, but it's just a little wavy sidewalk where you build up your momentum and you pump yourself to roll through it, and maybe connect the new equipment to the south equipment, the old equipment on the south. And then add metal pavilions to the roofing at Champlin Park, which is one pavilion, Monsie's Park, which is one, and then Glenwood Park, which is one pavilion. That's just, again, to standardize those, and that would be the end of the pavilions there. Here's the old skate park equipment on the left there. That's before we dismantled it at the old skate park. And then that's a picture of a pump track and what they would look like. So.
Where are we talking about locating that, putting that?
Right here. So this is where the new equipment is here.
Okay.
At the Broadway. We own this whole lot. This whole area is going to be the park here. So we're talking about resurfacing this concrete area on the southwest corner, and then maybe connecting that pump track to it.
Wow.
Okay.
Very nice.
And then again, here's just some photos of the Monsie's Park Pavilion and the Champlin Park Pavilion on the left there. And then Kellett Park overlay was the other thing on this year. It's the same basically as Meadow Lake Park is. It's just getting busted up and it's in pretty bad shape. I got ahead of myself here. Okay. This is also in this same year here. I didn't add it to the verbiage, but this is Crossland Park South Baseball, trying to add some parking down here as well. Right now there is a little bit of a gravel parking lot, but again, I'll show you an overhead view here. You can see the little area highlighted there that is the gravel parking lot, and the whole outlined area is where people park. So I'd like to get that all a little more parking down there for them too as well. Year 4, 25, 26, we've got Dredge Meadow Lake Pond, which is very shallow and needs to be done within the next few years. It's deepest part of the lake was about 5 feet, so it needs to be dredged out. And we've got Government Springs football. These last 2 years are kind of the things we're really getting to visualize and figure out plans to get this done. But I'd like to look at a way to get some new football fields, a new location with some new lights, something. The place where they're at is they're too compact. There's no room for spectators, and it's just an issue we've dealt with forever. But I'd like to give those guys some more room, some more spectator spots, and a new place to play. Add a new playground with ADA parking and access to Monsie's Park. Improve the old soccer complex building because they do continue to use the soccer complex, the old soccer complex. So, and then eventually add a couple more softball fields to the new south complex at Crossland. And here you can, it's kind of hard to see, but this is the current football field. You got the east and the west field there, but you've got about maybe 10 feet from the sidelines to the fence on either one of those fields, and it's just it's really compact. And Monsie's playground, that's currently all we have right there is a little monkey bars and a merry-go-round. And then the soccer complex, as you can see, the roof's in bad shape there, and we'll get those restrooms up to ADA compliance, get those big steel doors off of it. And then for my final, softball complex at Crossland South. This would be just kind of add 2 more, make this a 4-plex to what we've already got here that we added 2 years ago. And then our final year out in this 5-year plan, fiscal year 26-27, a new pool and aquatic center. The current pool we have, most of you know, was built in 1954, 68 years old, and it gets by. It gets by, but it's a 70-year pool that was meant to be 20 to 25 years in growth. So I'd like to add a splash pad at Meadow Lake South, or even Crossland possibly. And then this is just finishing on with the new ball field lights and getting rid of the wooden ones at Government Springs South softball and Crossland South softball. So, and this is just some pictures of our pool pump room. I would say that in the next 5 years, we're gonna have to make some major improvements in that basement to get that kind of up to date and in a little bit better shape, but we get by with it. This is the Meadow Lake South aerial view. That is, the area highlighted there is in the middle of the Loop drive-through there. So I think that'd be an amazing place for a splash pad. And then this is the Government Springs South lighting. You can see the condition of some of these poles. So that's why I want them all replaced eventually. I know it's going to take some time. So that's all I've got for you tonight. Take any questions you guys have.
Tell us about I'm not sure if I missed it, the restroom facilities at Government Springs Park North at the east end there.
Yes.
That's been on our radar for,
Yes.
oh, I don't know, 50 years.
Yeah, and I did highlight that real quickly, but we are looking at that. It didn't make the cut this year for the budget, but yes, we do need to get it. Currently, it's all the way on the east end of the park, right there next to the creek, and it's in pretty bad shape. It works, but it needs some definite upgrades. So.
Well, yeah, it's just old and it doesn't hold enough people when we have big events down
Right,
there, which
correct,
we have
yes.
all the time, and just families could fill that. You know, some of the families that show up down there to have their celebrations and whatnot can overwhelm just that little facility. So it didn't make it this year because
It's on
we
next
ran out of
year.
money. And how do we think we can make a better deal for it next year? It's budget time. What do you need, more money?
Yes.
Morales says, yeah, brother.
Short answer, yes.
Bring it on.
The last time that I remember you and I visiting, we were talking about different types of restrooms
Yes,
that were
yes.
available, that were out there.
Correct.
That were not as costly and, were quite suitable. Are we still in that process of figuring out
Yes.
what we want to do there?
Yes, what we want to get away from is spending high amounts of money on a restroom building. And we've even talked about like the pit restrooms that golf course has, just something, a bigger version of those that could hold a family. So yeah, we are looking at those as well.
A conventional bathroom costs about $300,000.
Yes, it's
And
very expensive.
We all want to have the
Anybody
bathrooms.
else on the commission
but
know that? $300,000 for bathrooms. It doesn't
So-
even have a place to sleep.
We definitely, I think we can bring the cost down with some of these modular type solutions that are out there now that are used in park systems and other cities. And we actually used them in our golf course. We put 2 of them in. And I don't remember exactly what they cost. I want to say it was about $40,000 a piece or something. And there was some additional concrete work that was involved. But I think they're pretty nice bathrooms. I haven't been out there in a while, but you have. Are they still nice?
Yes.
Good.
The property do we own that property over there off of 30th and Randolph across the street from the fire department? That pasture there?
No, I don't think so.
No, we don't.
On the north side of the fire department there?
Right, I was wondering about that when you had mentioned the football fields for
Yeah.
the leagues. That's a very nice
Yeah.
area.
Big open
In fact,
area.
that's in Ward 3, and that's a really nice area. And it's right there by the colleges and the universities, and that would really bring that area up
Yes, it would.
big time.
Well, I got you here. Let's not, we're going this way with all the park stuff.
Yeah.
Brookside, no park whatsoever the last 10 years. That's a neighborhood in itself that's got absolutely no park in it.
Correct. Yep.
And we need to focus on that neighborhood. There's a lot of kids in that neighborhood. and it's a singleized neighborhood that's roundabout, no park.
Yeah. For sure. Okay.
Well, obviously, this is, a lot of these things can be dealt with as they have been in the budget. Some of these things are tough. A pool is going to be really tough.
Very.
I have no idea what it's going to cost. We probably need to figure out what we need, what we want, where it could go, and then figure out money. And I know there's, an opportunity maybe to get some help on funding one way or the other with grants or public-private stuff or our own funding issues at some point. Also, Government Springs in general, as we were looking at this and talking about all the things in it, particularly Government Springs South, seems kind of run down. And if we're going to spend some money, that might be something we want more than, maybe a concept plan to look at what it could be to, if we're going to add things. And so there's some tough things on here. Well, everything's really tough because of funding, but there's some really big things that, the biggest one's a 68-year-old pool that needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, definitely. And just to add kind of to what you said of Government Springs South Park, there's a lot of opportunity there, I think. A lot of opportunity for growth and make it look better. We've already got the underground that goes under the bridge. There's a walkway that connects north and south.
We fought that in the court of public opinion, and we haven't ever won that battle. And although I believe that is a very safe area, and I had no hesitation about bringing any of my family there, anywhere, at any time. But certain people make a big deal out of it and make it ugly, and then there we are, once again, spinning our wheels.
And all you have to do is just go over there during football season. Little league, pee-wee
Yeah,
football season.
absolutely.
You can't hardly get through there, so many people
Yeah.
using those football fields.
Absolutely.
So, it can be utilized, and it is being utilized. And I agree with you, if we upgrade it, it'll make a big difference.
I think it will. And it gives them a way to cross the street there, busy highway underneath it. So. All right.
Okay.
Anything else?
No.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
Corey, appreciate it.
You bet.
All right, that said, we're going to adjourn, and we'll give you about 15 minutes. Let's get back together at 6:40, and we're adjourned.